mostly to do with Tibetan medicine and use of ritual in healing, so I'm very interested in the cultural aspects of medicine. Most recently I started looking at Western medicine, so I now work teaching global health in the medical school at Newcastle University in the north of England, so I have different interests. And what I'm going to talk about today is a ritual, a very elaborate ritual that I observed two times in 1998 and 2012. And I have many beautiful pictures here to show you of that ritual. So it's like a visual display. And I'll talk about the practitioners and I'll talk about the ritual. And so it's a contemporary ritual. And so what I want to leave with you is just some suggestions about what is happening now with contemporary Tibetans in Nepal. It's a long tradition that's going back centuries, and a continuous tradition, they say for thousands of years, and is most likely, well almost certainly, going to connect with what was going on in these temple complexes you have in your own country. So in Tibetan Buddhism, you have four lineages of Tibetan Buddhism, and then you also have this other religion, which is called the Bon religion. But the Bon religion, the two religions consider themselves in Tibet to be separate. But if you look at what they actually do and what they think and their practices, you find out they're almost exactly the same. So I'm going to talk about the Bon religion of Tibet, but the Bon religion of Tibet is a Buddhist religion. It's a Buddhist religion that has all the... So Tibet is interesting because by the time that Buddhism moved to Tibet, the Buddhists say that it was brought from India. The Bonpo say it came from a kingdom called Zhangzhung, which is in Central Asia. It had all the three vehicles of Buddhism, so the Hinayana, the Mahayana, and the Vajrayana all went into Tibet. So in this ritual that you see here, it has all those three elements, mainly Mahayana and Vajrayana. And the ritual itself goes back to the founding of the Bon religion of Tibet, who was another Buddha, not Shakyamuni Buddha, but another Buddha, who's called Trungpa Sherab. So this is a picture of Trungpa Sherab. They say that he was born, I think, 16,016 years ago. So maybe that's symbolic, but that's what they say in their text. And even some contemporary Bonpo have different ideas of when he was born or something. But that's another story. So this is it's a medicine blessing ritual called Mendrub Oser Kyilpa, which is a Tibetan phrase meaning the light infused medicine accomplishment ritual. And within the Bon religion itself, there are a number of these medicine blessing rituals. So this is just one. And within each of the lineages of Tibetan Buddhism, there are also a number of these medicine. So it's a quite common practice. This particular medicine blessing ritual is not common. It's only supposed to happen once in the lifetime of the abbot of Mendrub Monastery. Mendrub Monastery is the main monastery of the Bonpo, but I've experienced it two times, so that's unusual. Can you turn it? And first of all, you've got to collect all the medicines together, and this person here, who's a friend of mine, person I've been studying with for like 20 years or something, is a Nepali traditional medical practitioner. His teacher is this person here. He's unfortunately passed away now, and they were the people on both occasions who were leading the collection of all the medicines for the ritual. And Amchi Nyima here, Amchi is the Tibetan word for doctor. This is Mustang up in North Nepal. Many of the medicines are collected from the hills and the mountains in Nepal, particularly in the Mustang region. I think there was we're probably going to get that in the next slide, but there was 102 medicines used mixed together in this medicine blessing ritual. Most of them grow in Nepal, but some of them you have to buy, you have to collect from traditional medicine stores. The main one is this one in Kathmandu. So I think that probably nowadays Tibetan medicine, most of it will grow in the Himalayas, but some of it you have to bring from India. So that's also something that must have been happening with the Kyilpa. They would have been connected with networks, market networks, bringing medicines in, as well as doing this kind of collecting them in the hills. That's just another slide of the kind of environment where the medicines are collected, and a few of the traditional medicines there. This is again Mustang, very beautiful mountainous place. So the ritual itself is, we can say, alchemical. It's about the transformation, a twofold transformation. It's the transformation of the medicinal ingredients through the process of the ritual, but at the same time it's the transformation of the psychophysical components of the participants. So the Mahayana transformation, which is embodied in the 5 Dhyana Buddhas, from the transformation of the 5 mental poisons into transcendental wisdoms. So you've got that twofold process going on through the symbolism, through the articulation of the symbolism in the ritual. This is the medicine. This is actually the medicine, a photograph of the medicine before it was powdered. Now I'm going to talk about the participants in the ritual. So there's people who are actually officiating, carrying out the ritual, and they're divided into 4 groups. You have a group of what's called Nagpa. Nagpa means it's like householder priests. They're non-celibate monks, if you like. They're farmers, but they have knowledge about how to do tantric ritual, but they also work as farmers. And so they're coming from different communities, mostly from Dolpo and from Mustang. So there was 20 of those doing prayers to a Bonpo master called Drempa Nampa from the 9th century, who's a kind of living Buddha. So they were, throughout the whole ritual, which took 2 weeks, they're doing prayers all the time to Drempa Nampa. Then there's the young monks who have the responsibility of bringing the medicines to the deities in the pots. Then there's 32 monks who are reciting all the texts, 22 of them in the monastery reciting the ritual texts, and then some of them outside doing cham dances and doing other activities. And then we've got the main Lama who brings the power of the deity to the medicines, carries out the empowerment. Actually, Peter, this is one of the three Tibetans that David Snellgrove brought. So he's one of them. David Snellgrove, forever famous Tibetologist, brought 3 Bonpo scholars to London, to SOAS actually. And this is one of them who's still alive. He's 96 now. The other one, Samten Kam, is in Paris. And then the third one, who became the abbot of Mendrub Monastery, has passed away a few years ago. This is about the ritual activity again. So there we have the Nagpas carrying out the prayers to Drempa Nampa, and there's the monks there doing a dance ritual, which is part of marking the boundary of the space for the ritual. And then all the time throughout the rituals, the lay participants, just the common people, are walking round the monastery, reciting the mantra of the main deity. So everybody is taking part, in effect. Every single person who's there in the sacred space is taking part in the ritual and being transformed by it. This is a picture of Drempa Nampa, who's the Bonpo master, who the Nagpas are doing prayers to. Yeah, I wanted to mention that, as I said, it's not just the officiating monks, lamas, Nagpas who are actually reciting the texts, who are contributing towards the ritual activity. All the participants being transformed are receiving the blessings themselves. And this is quite important because by participating, by being there in the ritual, it's also a way of coming together as a community. You express your identity as a community, and your identity as being Buddhist, in this case Bonpo, but Buddhist. This is a tantric ritual. The main deity, so the main deity of the ritual is a tantric deity called Shitro. The Shitro has two aspects, a wrathful and a peaceful aspect. So on the left-hand side here is the peaceful deity. The peaceful deity has 45 emanations, 45 kind of sub-deities. The wrathful deity has 86 emanations. And these different deities are all different aspects in tantric anatomy, our subtle anatomy. They're all different elements of our psychophysical being. So they're just represented by these deities, but they're actually part of the subtle anatomy, which is part of the alchemical process. If you like, these deities are the medicine Buddha. You know, they're just emanation. You could view it in that way. They're an emanation. They're another way of another expression of the medicine Buddha. So the power of the transformation comes through this deity, Shitro. Now I'm just talking about the phases of how the ritual is conducted. The first phase is to purify the participants and to purify the space. And that has different aspects to it. But one aspect is to make offerings. These are offerings. By making these models of people, effigies, you offer these to the local spirits and they accept those. And you offer different forms of wealth. So there would be these kind of ritual objects there, these things called namkars. And also all the participants, in Tibetan you have this dry roasted barley and flour, and that's mixed with water, made into a dough, and then all the participants put their hands into that dough and squeeze and put all their negativities into it, and that is all thrown into this pot. So it's part of the process of purification, and all that's given to the local spirits in the environment as a kind of gifts of wealth, so that they will not create any obstacles to the ritual. Another part of purifying the space is the actual owner, the spirit owner of the land. In Tibetan it's called Sadak. Sa, earth, Dak means owner. Sadak lives in the space in the land. And the Sadak, according to Chinese, and I suppose it would be Tibetan astrology, Tibetan astrology and Chinese astrology are very similar, moves around according to the 12 animals in a different position throughout the year. So that you have to calculate by looking at the astrological charts where the Sadak is in the earth, and then you dig into where you know the stomach of the Sadak is, and then you take soil from the Sadak's stomach, and that's taken into the temple and used as the base of the mandala. That's the purification of the space. And then we have to mark the boundary of the space, the ritual boundary, to stop any negative influences coming into that space. You mark this fixed boundary. And that's done by calling on these powerful deities called Wal and setting up these ritual spears. So there's a ritual to do with that. And then the four main deities of the cardinal points, who you can see here, are established in each cardinal point, and this is one of them being established here. So he does a dance, or this deity does a dance, and at the same time the monks recite these texts, and then through this process that protector is installed in that cardinal point of the temple, of the ritual space. The next stage is, once you've got the place purified, and you've matched your ritual boundary, is to create the mandala where the deity resides. The mandala is actually, so here we see a two-dimensional picture, but the mandala is actually a three-dimensional palace. And where all those different deities, the 86 wrathful and the 45 peaceful, which are all, remember, aspects of our psychophysical being, are positions in that three-dimensional mandala. So when the monks are reciting the prayers, they visualize these deities in those locations inside the mandala, coming from seed syllables. So the deities themselves have an anthropomorphic form, but that anthropomorphic form arises from a seed syllable. So that's the peaceful mandala, that's the wrathful mandala. Okay. And then the medicines you can see are all underneath here in these big sacks. And what I'm showing here is what they did in the ritual was they constructed a platform, and they put a print of the mandala on a glass plate here. You'll see later, it's clearer in the later slide. And they put you've probably seen the Tibetans making mandalas. They do it with sand, coloured sand. They blow it with little pipes and make these beautiful patterns. It takes quite many hours. And so they did that, but they can't put all these objects on and then take them off and then put them on, because it would just destroy all the sand pattern. So what they do is they put the sand mandala underneath a glass plate. They put a print of the mandala on top and put all the medicines and the ritual implements on top of the print. So then what we've got here is a photograph of all the common objects, the ritual daggers, claws and umbrellas, which are used in all tantric ritual. And then the special objects for this ritual, the medicine blessing, are these pots, which I'm going to come on to now. The medicines are blessed in 5 pots. We have 5 root medicines, and then we have the branch medicines. The 5 root medicines correspond to the 5-fold alchemical transformation process in Mahayana and Vajrayana Buddhism, going from each of the 5 dhyana Buddhas, each of the cardinal points, each of the elements, and each of the 5 mental poisons going into the transcendental wisdoms. So that's what's happening with people, but the same process is happening with medicines in the pots. They're transformed from the raw medicinal substances into healing nectars that can heal everything, or the 404 illnesses, which are symbolic of all illnesses. And the branch medicines represent the 8 groups of consciousness. So they just go in the in-between points on the mandala. Yep. So we have, in each of the pots, each of those 5 pots, we have a number of common medicines that go in all of those pots. They're common because they go in all the pots. And then we have a number of special medicines that are unique to each of the pots. Aro, Baro, Kyuru are the 3 fruits of Ayurvedic medicine. And then Shangdroke, I'm not going to read all this, but you can read that yourself. I'm going to go through, so when I say the common medicines, that's what's there. And then the special medicines, I'll go through those. Some people, I did this presentation a few days ago, so know what to expect. But for those who don't know what to expect, you're going to find them quite interesting and fanciful. So the root medicine of space, which is the wisdom of emptiness, in a glass pot. And then the special medicines are a young white boy with bright eyes and the sperm of a kind of lion. So some of these, all of the special medicines, you would imagine it's impossible to find. And even if you could find them, impossible to take, as you will see. But so how they explain this is that this ritual, a part of the powder of this ritual is kept from the previous ritual, and this goes back to the very first time the ritual occurred. So essentially thousands of years, if you believe what they say. And so that powder retains the power of the previous powder. So if you can't find any of the ingredients, you can use a bit of the previous powder as a proxy for some of these elements that you might not be able to find. Okay, next slide. So here we've got the common medicines, the gold plot, mirror-like wisdom, and this is the flesh of a young virgin girl, or some kind of special meat, which we're not quite sure what it is, and then elephant heart meat. Next slide. As I said before when I did this talk a few days ago, this is my favourite special medicine. The excrement taken while it is running of a horse with a body that is reddish grey and with a blue tail and mane. I don't know if you got that English, but you can imagine how difficult that's going to be. Try it even with a normal horse. Okay, next slide. Menstrual blood of a girl whose skin is bright and of reddish colour, the blood of red birds. Discriminating wisdom. So this is, you can see that they're all connected with the air and copper pot. So next one. The urine of a mute dragon. So the dragons are interesting because I studied a little bit of Tibetan medicine myself, and you find in the Tibetan medicine text powder of dragon's blood or something. And when I asked Amchi Gege, the older guy, because I also studied with him a little bit, I said, "Oh, where are we going to get dragon's blood from?" And he says, "Oh, we used to have dragons in Tibet. You know, you can still find this." So there you go. Now, next one. So then, so we've done the 5 special pots. Now the branch medicines. That's what's inside those. The 5 organs of consciousness. Any animal really, but pig, goat or sheep are good. Container in an agate pot, and they go in the midpoint. So next slide. So once you've got all these medicines, they're then carried to the mandala by young boys dressed as dakinis, goddesses. And as they walk around the mandala, then eventually to the mandala, the monks do the prayers and waft these big spears as if they're calling the nectars down into the medicines. Next slide. So here are the pots, the 5 pots on top of the printed mandala in the correct location of the sand mandala underneath. So these are just samples. The body of the medicine, the majority of the medicine is actually underneath. I would estimate there's about 500 kilos or something of medicine there. During the ritual, normally the text says that you're supposed to first do the ritual for the raw medicines. So you would do the raw medicines, you do all the prayers for the raw medicines in the pots on the peaceful deity, take them off, then make the mandala for the wrathful deity, put them on, and then you would do the same. Then you take all the medicines off, then powder them, then do the same thing with the powdered medicines for the peaceful deity, then the wrathful deity. But because we've got 500 kilos of medicine, which takes like a month to powder, what they did was they just symbolically took the medicines off. So here they're symbolically taking the medicines off and symbolically powdering them. But as you can see, go back a moment, there's a lot of medicine here. And then after you've done all the prayers, the invocations with the pots in the correct locations on the mandala, and brought about this transformation process that we were talking about, then you receive the final empowerment of this tantric deity. Actually, a few deities. So these are the offerings to the tantric deities. And for example, this is another deity that was included in there, which is the goddess of compassion. She's called Jama in the Bon religion, but she's the Bonpo version of Tara. Yeah, and so this is the final slide really. So once the ritual is completed, all the medicines put into small bags and distributed amongst all the participants. And for those who are not present, bags are kind of taken off into the communities, into the villages and distributed about. And they're very highly valued. They're considered to have a powerful, almost magical, well, indeed a magical healing power, which you, even if you're feeling slightly ill or you get a fever, they're considered to be able to heal everything.